So, welcome to the Squirrel Palace. In spring early this year of 2025, I rescued two baby squirrels, Douglas squirrels, and actually rescued about six more and turned them loose. But these two I had to bottle feed. So, what I did is I got online. Things are still a mess because things are not quite finished, but I got online and I bought 100 feet of this wire mesh. Now, if I were to do it again, I would probably not use this stuff just because it's a little on the flimsy side, and if it's welded, it's not welded very well, and these tend to break really easily. So there's a few places where it did break and I had to mend it, but I had this idea in my mind that I'd make an outdoor squirrel cage that was as close to being in the nature wild as I could get for them. And as I studied a lot more about Douglas squirrels, um, I found about how big their cache or midden was that they do. Anyway, you can see that I took an old Costco tent pipe that's not plumb. It has some dents on the legs, which created it a little challenging. So it kind of drove my OCD batty because it's not perfectly tight and there's a little flex to it. Here's where I made some seams and I didn't want any sharp edges, so I overlapped it quite a bit and had seams on the top and seams on the bottom by just a thinner wire. And so I covered the whole thing at the top. You can't see quite, it's a little bit dark, and that tarp up there is on the dark side. So I covered the entire thing, and then I knew that I wanted a wood frame around the bottom. And what you can't see on the floor, I was going to put a wire mesh on the floor just so things like well, they couldn't dig out for one, but then martins couldn't come in and dig a hole under the ground if they do that and then kill the squirrels. So what we did is we leveled out the ground, and underneath here, it could be called the Squirrel Taj Mahal because the floor is all marble. And so we put a bunch of gravel to level the ground because it's not real level here. And then over that, after stamping down the gravel, we put down this marble. And I covered it with pine shavings. So then we came in here, and in the center, I sunk a square pot and put gravel in it so I could put this dead madrone branch in here. And I can intermittently put in fresh other kinds of branches and stuff that the squirrels can chew the leaves on or whatever. This just happens to be, I think this is some willow, combination of willow, and then there's some other stuff that have moss growing on it. And in the corner, there's actually a block with a hole, and so I made a little cubby there if they decide they want a house. They're in cages right now, and they're separated. They're brothers, but they're still very territorial, and I'm hoping that this cage will be big enough and they'll have separate houses enough to live at least semi-peacefully together. We'll see how that goes. And there I started their own little cache of a whole bunch of Douglas fir cones, and there's some rose hips in there, and Oregon grape berries, and there's some more scattered around here. Anyway, did a little swing for them so they can have fun. And then I got a new chicken waterer so they can have water and If it works, great. If it doesn't get frozen in the wintertime, even better. But if not, I have a heated water tank for them also. So they, like I say, this is a Squirrel Palace. And then over here, we put in, actually, this is a pet door and a screen door. Let me just grab this so I'll show you. So I have a feeder and then this little cat door with a lock outside the door, so I can open it up and just pour them a bunch of food right there and not have to come through this door. And my husband helped me a lot with this part because he had to build the frame and do it on the outside and on the inside of the wire to just strengthen it and sturdy up the wire. So here's my door, and I like it. It's kind of creaky, but that's okay. Maybe it'll be enough to keep them away. And so anyway, this is my Squirrel Palace. I'm not turning them loose yet because it's getting late tonight and I'd rather do it during the daytime so I can just really observe them and see how they adapt. And we're adding a squirrel apartment, actually. We'll have to show you what that is. And right now they're in parrot cages. So I'll show you some more later on. So here it is. This is almost the conclusion of construction to Squirrel Palace.